This is the two-tier policing society. This is the two-tier policing society. Oh, hello. Good afternoon. Hope you're all well. I mean, despite all the shitty circumstances here in the UK, one at least has to keep the morale up. After all, what do we have if we don't have spirit? Sod all. That's what we have. Now, there's a couple of things that I do want to talk about. First and foremost, I've probably already mentioned it in the live stream that I did, but that particular thing was seeing it's at Norwich City Hall, my particular national strike. I think I can just about make that. I think I could just about be bothered to get off my fat ass and get up there. Who said it takes 20 minutes for me to stand up? Shut up, you. It doesn't take me that fucking long. But no, I will hopefully be down there around, well, do I want to be up there for 11 or 12? I know it starts at 12. And you know what? It's going to be the first real chance to get some local action, if you will. And there is stroke number 1 minute in. There is no excuse for me, as obviously it is my local town. It's not like I'm having to go 200 miles out to Manchester or London, or spend 3 to 6 hours on a train just to get to where I want to go. This is literally, I can walk up there in about 30 minutes, I'd say, or I can be lazy and get the bus like I normally do. But there is effectively no excuse as far as going to this national strike for me. Or maybe I was right first time, who knows? Maybe it will be a national stroke for me. I just hope there won't be too many people shouting, "He's having a stroke!" But anyway, I'll tell you one thing that I'm going to thoroughly fucking enjoy, and that is tearing apart the NPCs, who will undoubtedly be showing up from Hate Not Hope and Stand Up to Racism, all the usual NPCs. Because as we all know, a lot of these protesters on the other side have about as much substance as a crushed walnut. And often they will use words that very aptly describe themselves, that they don't even know the definitions of, whereas we do. I still remember the time when I was at Salford with Tommy Robertson, when I was invited up to Salford to share a platform with Tommy Robertson. And I even laughed in their faces and said to them, "You don't even know what the definition of fascist is, do you?" I tell you what, I know this is going to sound bad, I think I had more fun taking the piss out of them than I did standing up on the stage with Tommy Robertson. Even if that particular incident was the greatest moment of my life, and I don't regret a fucking thing. But I will be devil's advocate for my own local town, and that is that a lot of Norwich is very liberal. There are a lot of people from Norwich who are part of the DEI brigade, aka didn't earn it, and people that literally don't give a shit if people from third world shitholes are literally turning my town of Norwich into a third world shithole. But I'm going to put this directly to all the leftoids out there. Who do you think they'll come for next? Let's say, for the sakes of argument, if you manage to get rid of the far right, who do you think they'll come after then? Once these illegals, or the religion of peace, cast out the supposed far right, they've only got one target left: you. And as far as the religion of peace is concerned, especially when it comes down to the LGBTQ brigade, they find you lot about as appealing as essence of skunk. I'm pretty sure some of the unwashed use that shit as well. Anyway, they find you about as appealing as essence of skunk. They do not appreciate you at all. They look at you and they think, "Oh look, it's the buggery brigade." And "Oh, you slay girl." Like, they don't actually see you as proper human beings. They see you as people to be exterminated. Things they keep preaching that, well, ironically, the religion of peace is actual far right. And it just so happens to be coincidental that Islam are mainly a fascistic, conquering religion. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. So they will go out of their way to accuse us of being far right and Nazis and fascists, etc., etc. When at best, the real far right belong to Islam, or Keir the traitor Starmer. No, that's going a bit too far. Keir the traitor Starmer's far left. not far right. And the way I look at it is Keir the traitor Starmer has no interest in serving his own people. But that, of course, is something you already know. But I always find it funny how the leftoids are always the ones that are like, we're inclusive and be kind to one another. Yet the leftoids can be really nasty at times. I mean, the way they treated Donald Trump is a prime example. Whether he's a plonker or not, which he may well be, doesn't give the leftoids the right to glorify violence against him. Or to say, well, criticise the shooter for missing Trump. Doesn't give him any right to do that shit. But that's the thing. The leftoids who think we're the violent ones, we're the violent far-right thugs who go out of our way to go and attack everyone. It's actually the left that do this more often than not. Antifa are a very good example of how they'll take a crowbar to an elderly man. Or how one wanker took a bicycle lock to a completely neutral person who was trying to stop a fight. That's the thing. These left-wingers, as I said, they have as much substance in them as a crushed walnut and all the intelligence of a bell-end church full of you-know-whos. You could literally round up all of the left-wing NPCs and all of the religion of peace Mullah Rices, and you will not find any higher than a double-digit IQ with them, if they're lucky. And isn't it funny how it's always us that get persecuted? The ones who suffer the two-tier policing. The ones who, if we step a hair out of a line, we get the riot squads and we get batons drawn upon us. While you could literally be promoting Palestine and supporting a terrorist group, and the police will be like, oh no, please don't do that, please stay calm, please calm down, and they won't do anything about them in most cases. Now, I don't know about you, but I thought it was against the law to support a terrorist group. Or maybe I'm just being old-fashioned. Who knows? The only thing I'm truly worried about right now is Karen going to be on the bus when I get on? The silly cow who thinks that she has a right to say, oh, I should basically shut up because I'm on the public transport. Well, last time I checked, what about London? Do you not see how many people end up chatting on their phones? Do you not see how many people end up playing music on transport? Do you not see how loud public transport is in London? You should be thankful, quite frankly, that I'm not louder than that. And on top of that, I was even considerate enough to go to the back of the bus, away from this woman. Like, to put it into perspective, look at this bus now. I was sitting at the back of one of those buses. She was practically 2 seats from the front. So I'm not exactly sitting next to this woman and blaring it down her ear like I was trying to be some obnoxious prick. Far from it. I was about as considerate as I could have possibly been for her. Because obviously there are some people who don't want to listen. I do accept that. But she went out of her way to come to me, not the other way round. So any argument she had was practically invalidated because she was the one who thought she could be a Karen, be an NPC and be like, you need to shut up for the sakes of diversity. Like hell am I going to do that? And I was very fucking tame with that woman, quite frankly. I could have easily have told her to piss off and get back to her seat and enjoy the journey, instead of trying to take a stab at me, metaphorically. But no, that's the trouble with these leftoids. They are about as open to reason as Buckingham Palace's doors to the public, quite frankly. And I am going to thoroughly fucking enjoy my time at this national strike. I am going to do everything I can to make it all the more enjoyable for me and maybe even the people up there. Well, except for the leftoids, because obviously we know they're as dense as a block of tungsten. As far as they're concerned, I can literally just fucking imagine like a factory. Like maybe like a factory like this or something, where you've literally got machinery and what have you down here, and you see this conveyor belt and it just prints out the most dullest, most boring type of person ever to come out, and then on another conveyor line there's a load of placards there waiting that say stand up to racism and all that shit. Like I can just imagine it. They're just carbon copies of one another. Like they have as much variety as a bar of dairy milk. They really are just the biggest bunch of soy boys, soy girls that have no substance whatsoever. So yes, I am going to thoroughly fucking enjoy my time up at the City Hall. and if there's any spicy action, obviously I'll do what I can to get it all recorded for you. Now let me be clear, I don't support any violence or what have you, or a riot or whatever. I don't encourage that, and I will not condone that. But you know what I will encourage? Laughing at the NPCs. I will encourage that every fucking day. Now, for the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because there was some things that I missed out as far as the Tommy Robinson case is concerned. Not so much I had them and I didn't think about it, but rather something that I wanted to clue myself up on, which is the charge of harassment. Because it turns out Tommy Robinson is due to be back in court on the 5th of June. And there he is going to be facing charges of harassment and causing fear of violence. Well, for the harassment bit, I have learned that if it comes under criminal stalking, which can be charged at a magistrate's court, then the time limit on that is 6 months. And last time I checked, this so-called harassment of these two Daily Fail journalists, who, by coincidence, they haven't released their names, but they were more than willing to release the fact that Tommy Robinson's family were at a certain point, and they're willing to dox his family. But that, of course, is something the mainstream media is not going to tell you. But they didn't mention the names of these two so-called journalists who thought that they were in fear of their lives and in fear of violence, when all Tommy Robinson had said on Twitter, which, yes, there were some things that you could disapprove of, but he effectively only really said, look, mate, if you're going to start doxing my family, I'm going to start taking pictures of you and you alone outside your house. Now, that's not a threat of violence. That's a threat of plastering your face on Twitter and having you named and shamed, but that's about it. And last time I checked, I don't think that's actually against the law. It would only be against the law if Tommy Robinson posted the full address of these people and or included their family in it and put them in fear of their lives, actual fear of their lives. Tommy has not done that. Tommy has merely done a classic scenario of what's good for the goose is good for the gander, quite frankly. These paparazzi were more than willing to dox Tommy's family, which they had no right to do, but they start to have their feelings hurt and they start to get scared the moment Tommy gives them a taste of their own medicine, minus, of course, their families, because he has something that those two shills won't have. It's called principles. Well, I don't see Karen up here, so already we're off to a good start. Anyway, what this boils down to is whether Tommy Robinson is a plonker or not, which, for all I know, he may well be. But whether he's a plonker or not, he hasn't really broken a harassment charge. And even if he did, this would pretty much be time barred, since they're trying to go through a magistrate's court and have him done in on criminal charges of harassment. Therefore, they would not be able to make that stick, and if it's the only charge, the case could get thrown out. Just like that. But the counter-argument to that, of course, which is very valid, and Maya Tuzi's even brought this up, they're not going to do it for just that. I'll get back a bit, be a bit considerate for that guy up there. But what this comes down to is they will try to put other charges on him, as they know full well that if it's just harassment, it's not going to stick. So they're going to do all they can to try and put some other bullshit charge on Tommy just because of who he is, rather than what he's actually done. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that he's going back to the clink, whether he deserves it or not. And the way I see it is Tommy hasn't broken harassment. He hasn't threatened these people with violence. But of course, because of his background, the mainstream media shills and of course the Daily Fail newspaper rag journalists, well, journalists in name only, they're really activists, they want to use that as an excuse to say, I was in fear of my life. Dense bastards. The lot of them. And what this showcases is a clear and blatant case of rules for thee, but not for me, and two-tier journalism. Because they are effectively implying, oh, it's perfectly okay for us to take pictures of you and violate Article 8 of your Human Rights Act, but it's not okay for you to do the same to us. That's effectively what it boils down to. And if they decide to go ahead with this and send him to prison for this, you're going to be setting a very terrible precedent that basically says the media can act with impunity, but if we try to give them a taste of their own medicine and follow the confines of the law, we'll get charged for it. Which will be another classic case of two-tier justice. Speaking of two-tier justice, there's another thing I need to discuss. Lucy Connoly again. Because the Lord Justice Holyrood, or whatever his name is, or as Preston journalists quite rightly put it, Judge Hemorrhoid, he decided that as far as sentencing is concerned, he was the one who said it was perfectly acceptable what this girl's sentence was, which was 31 months for a tweet that was maybe a mistake at best, or sorry, at worst, but in the end she said burn them to the ground for all I care, i.e. the hotels, not the illegals. And bear in mind, they put it down to racial hatred or racially targeted tweet, when in reality migrants aren't a race. Migrants are a type of people that they become when they decide they want to cross the channel or they want to fly over to the plane to another country. It is a title, it is not a race. So on that basis alone, you can say that this sentencing was unjust against Lucy Connoly. But Judge Hemorrhoid decided that it was perfectly acceptable for her to be continually locked up for this. And Lucy Connoly has effectively said some stuff about our Prime Minister Keir the Traitor Starmer, which frankly I don't blame her for, because we do live in a two-tier policing and two-tier justice society. But our friend Judge Hemorrhoid is not exactly a big fan of balanced judging, is he? Because it turns out that when it came down to, I believe it was a Labour MP, Azia, I can't remember the second name off the top of my head, but a Labour Muslim MP was ending up stroke number 2, found out he was buggering boys, and he actually committed a sexual offence against a child at the age of 11. Originally caught R-ing this boy. He was sentenced to, I think it was like 5.5 years in prison, which already in and of itself is pretty disgusting as far as sentences are concerned, as it's way too short. Turns out though, Judge Hemorrhoid, Lord Justice Hemorrhoid, decided that it was perfectly okay to reduce his sentence down to 30 months. Bearing in mind, how long was Lucy Connoly's sentence? Yeah, my seriously not amused face springs to mind. 31 months. So technically, they have allowed a sentence on a woman who maybe made a tweet in poor taste, you could argue. They have sentenced her to a longer period of time in jail than a Labour MP who was caught in buggery and has R-ed an underage boy. Let that sink in. What he has just set the precedent of is you can be an artist, you can commit sexual offences, you can do all manners of disgusting things, and you'll be lucky if you get several years in prison. Yet, if you send a mean tweet that hurts someone's feelings, you're looking at 2.5 years at least in prison. If that is not a prime example of two-tier justice, nothing ever will be. But that's the thing. This is the sort of thing that Karen yesterday wanted me to shut up for the sakes of diversity for. She wanted me to keep quiet while I was on the bus, effectively saying all this stuff because, well, I guess she didn't like it. Well, guess what? There are going to be a lot of things that other people don't like. I sometimes have to listen to a lot of shit that I don't like. Do you know what, though? Do I go up to them and say, you need to shut your fucking mouth? Or you need to quieten that child? Or do you need to get off the phone? No, I don't. You know why? Principles. I have the common courtesy not to disturb people with what they're doing. And guess what? I'm not going to stop talking about these things. I'm not going to stop mentioning them on the bus, because at the end of the day, we're at a stage now where we can't keep quiet about this. Because right now, if people haven't noticed, this country is going down the plug hole faster than you could ever imagine, at the hands of Keir the traitor Starmer, the man who has been caught locking up political prisoners, who has willfully lied about not knowing about Lucy Connoly and then being like, I am happy with the sentence that she's serving, even though he knows full well that there are people who have committed much graver offences that are literally being allowed to walk free in court, mainly from the religion of peace. That's the thing. The mainstream media and the government want to cover all this up. They don't want the indigenous people to know about this, because it would obviously make the government look bad. That's why they're using Lucy Connoly and Tommy Robinson. They're using them to make an example of us. Only it's not going to work. You could literally send someone to threaten my sister, my mother, my grandmother, my dead granddad. I wouldn't give a fuck, because at the end of the day, this is an important thing that we need to talk about. We need to talk more about the absolute travesty that is our two-tier policing and justice society. We need to talk more about how Keir the traitor Starmer is trying to betray Brexit, the vote which was done on the highest turnout of people in history, 17.4 million votes. And Keir the traitor Starmer wants to undo it in the blink of an eye, just like that. We need more people to talk about the fact that Keir the traitor Starmer has also committed electoral fraud, since he decided at the general election, he put down that he was living at Lord Arley's mansion. And we know that he's lived at Lord Arley's mansion because he admitted to the public, straight from the horse's mouth, that his son was there trying to study for his GCSEs. And again, the mainstream media are not going to tell you that. There are so many things that traitor Starmer is complicit in and guilty of. Treason, fraud, murder, as far as Peter Lynch, God rest his soul, is concerned. The fact he supports terrorism through Syria, how he's gone out of his way alongside David, the Archbishop of Racism, Lammy, who have given money over to Syria, which is now controlled by the Allen snack bars. He's guilty of discrimination as well as sexism because of what he's been doing with the WASPy women. Like, there is so much that you could nail Keir the traitor Starmer to the wall for, but he has the audacity to willfully lie through his teeth about the way Lucy Connoly has had a fair sentence, when it is about as fair as a two-headed coin. And I can already imagine Diane Abbott still going tails, but hey-ho, there you go. The bottom line is, when this national strike comes up tomorrow, we need as many people up at each city centre as possible. I know I'm going to be at the city centre tomorrow. I hope to see a lot of other Norwegians with me who are ready to protest against this treacherous two-tier policing society and the two-tier justice society, because it needs to happen. Right now, we are being replaced. The white people are being replaced, and the people at the World Health Organization, or again, maybe I was right first time, and all the other massive organizations have been saying that is their plan. Replace the white working class. This is our chance, probably our last chance, to end this peacefully. This is our last chance to hopefully put enough pressure on Keir the traitor Starmer to resign from his post, call a snap election, and let's have a real party in power that actually puts the English people first and puts our security first and tells everyone else to swivel. Because that's what we need. We need to get tough, not use kid gloves and treat people unfairly. Thank you. We need as many English patriots at that protest, that national strike, as possible. We need every man, woman and child that can attend to be at those things. The projected figures are around 500,000 people across the country. It needs to be more. We need to show Keir the traitor Starmer that we're done fucking around with him. We need to show him, if he is not willing to do good by the English people, that we, the people, are going to take out the trash and place it in the dustbin of history. We also know that, of course, the left-wing crowd, left-wing NPCs will be up there trying to preach their DEI and their inclusivity when they're about as pleasant, as I said, as the essence of skunk I mentioned earlier. They are not nice people. They are people who literally have sold their souls to the devil and have sold our country out for the sakes of diversity. That makes them just as much of our enemy as Keir the traitor Starmer. They will do everything they can to sabotage this event. They will do everything they can to try and make this all kick off. They don't realise what a dangerous game that is. Because if it does kick off, okay, maybe they'll get their headlines, but it might also be the spark that triggers a massive revolution. And then they will have a problem. Remember what I said in the past about Boris Johnson and how over half the army would decide they would side with the people if a coup was to take place. And that was with Boris Johnson in power. How many do you think will take our side if it's Keir the traitor Starmer that they are fighting? That's the thing. We will have so many people on our side. And as I said, I don't condone violence. I don't want a violent revolution. But the cold, bitter truth is, if it comes down to it, they'll have practically handed the country to us on a plate. Because we will have the numbers, we will have the determination, we will have the soldiers on our side who can give the training to the indigenous people, and that can make a fighting force that will overthrow the government. They may think they're winning, but they're not. And this national strike is going to send a message, one way or another, that we the people have had enough, and we want our country back.